Welcome back. Cindy Dole here. This is Home Wizards, your radio home for all things home, garden, and life improvement. Here Saturdays 2 to 4 to help you really enjoy those spaces you call home more, inside and outside. And I always love finding the solutions and the ideas that don't necessarily require money or maybe no money at all. But sometimes it does help. And well, anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. But there's this guy that I have met that you have heard before on this show, and we had to have him back because he's just full of joy and great ideas for your garden. He is a landscape architect who has had the fortune of doing gardens all over the world, Disney properties. I mean, just can you imagine? And then traveling the world looking for more exotic plants and designs for these places and spaces. And so, yeah, it kind of, I guess, can help to have money, but he's going to show us how to also have a lush garden without any money at all. And so welcome, Paul Comstock. So good to have you.
Hi, Cindy. Good to see you again.
Good to have you here.
Oh,
and
thank you
I didn't
very much.
know that you designed gardens for Johnny Carson and Bob Hope. Is that true? Way back?
Oh, that was a long time ago. But
I got to tell you a funny story, though, about this Bob Hope. My husband and I were at a gathering, and it turned out it was Bob Hope's, I don't know, one of his accountants who happened to be at this function where we were. And so she introduces herself and says, yes, that she's the accountant of Bob Hope the entertainer. And it almost struck us like as if there's any other Bob Hope.
Yeah, I know, there's only one.
There's only one. And
he really liked azaleas, and he wanted to have azaleas at his place out in the desert. And he's used to all the azaleas that we can grow here in Southern California in our valleys, and it was a little difficult to keep them moist in Palm Springs. But,
I bet. Yeah, they were more of a shade lover, huh?
Really loved his plants.
Isn't
Loved
that
his plants.
cool?
He and his wife, yeah.
And Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson, oh my gosh. It was Johnny Carson's house. I mainly dealt with his very famous wife, Joanna.
Yeah.
And she was really the primary resident of a little house up here off of Sunset Boulevard. And it was really pleasurable, fun experience.
So here you've had, I mean, between those famous people and, of course, how more famous can you get than Disney?
Mouse.
Boy, I mean, what an incredible life you've had, and what joy to be able to bring all of that happiness to so many people with these plants.
Yeah, well, it's really a two-way street. It's the people on the other end.
It's Main
have
Street,
to have
you
that
mean?
Same,
It's Main Street.
It is
It's Parade,
Main
Disney on
Street.
Parade.
It is. It really is, and it's a common thread that weaves through everybody from these large corporations or these really kind of people in the public eye and down to the common person. And it's something that comes into all of us, and we all can appreciate and use to enrich our lives.
Yeah. So when someone like a Disney says, hey, can you please make our park look like it really is Africa? Or can you make this look like that? I mean, then what do you do?
Well, the best thing to do is to bone up on what those environments are all about and everything. With the Disney company, they're so encouraging. They're such a great company. They just want people to create, and they want a creative process to start to flow. So you have to get inside of the mind of the art directors of these places, right? And they have a vision for a space, just like you might have a vision for your backyard garden. You want it to be calm and relaxing. Maybe you want some fragrance. Maybe you enjoy color. Those are three basic areas, right? And for a Disney thing, it's about a story. And there's a story behind every single facet of every experience in a Disney environment. And so you have to become familiar with the story and then go out into the world and get the plants that bring that story to life. And then put the people, the guests, on that stage so that they can experience that and be immersed in that same story and be a part of the story. That's the key.
Wow. Okay, we're done.
That's only the beginning.
I'm just kidding, but that's a book right there. So what story do you have in your garden at home or gardens?
Oh, I guess my story is kind of the home for lost and wayward plants from around the world.
Oh, that's right. You do kind of adopt little pathetic things.
I see them in the garbage cans that line Pacific Coast Highway. People are throwing them away, and I feel sorry for them. I have to reach out and kind of grab them and find a place for them, see if I can, they want to live, and they want to I think that plants, what's the word? I'm amorphizing. But I know the plant doesn't have a will like our brain or something, but it is an organism that wants to live and wants to be successful and can really enrich our lives. So I kind of have a collection from all over the world, from Africa, Madagascar, China, Australia. Kind of my favorite plants. I see them and either bring their seeds or roots or cuttings or try to find them in the local garden centers now and then have a collection of a wide variety of different things.
Now, with all these agricultural controls and concerns, how do you get these plants back into the country?
Well, there's systems for doing it. It's just like, you're
not one of those guys that's stuffing them down your pants or anything.
No.
Just checking.
I'm too afraid to try
good.
that. I like where I live and don't want to put that in jeopardy or anything.
Yeah.
But it's just like, how do you get a car made in Japan? How do you drive that on the LA freeway? There's, it has to go through a system of business checks and balances, and the same thing with plants around the world. And you go back hundreds of years, many hundreds of years, people have moved plants around the world inside of the frameworks of business and law and culture and society for a long, long time. And there just are rules and regulations. You just have to follow them. That's all. There's no real big trick. Main thing you have to have is the interest to want to do it, and then provide a really great home for these. Once you get them here, then you give them a good home.
Ah, wow. And so we want to talk a bit about having, you have experienced designing gardens for famous people. We can call them the kings and queens of our day.
Yeah.
How have the gardens of kings and queens, royalty, Queen Elizabeth and whomever else, versus our kings and queens of, TMZ fame, how have those gardens changed? Is there a different look or feel or wish or request for someone like you?
Well, I don't think so. I think they are essentially the same since, that crazy rock star Louis XIV, to some of the rock stars that we have today. And some of these are business people, that it's the same type of thing. They have either been very successful in some type of business, or they have come by way of, through their families or some other type of royalty, had the means to create some fantastic gardens and places that they like to be in. Some of them are based on things from the past, and I don't think that the overall difference has changed that much from kings and queens in the past to people today. And I think that relates to just, Cindy, to you and I. It's the same. In the past, you had to be royalty. You had to be phenomenally wealthy, either from your family or politically or from power some way, to be able to afford these. But now we have these great garden centers in all of our towns around Southern California, and we have great nursery providers that bring all of these things that were once only available to the kings and queens and to the royalty of the past. Now all of us can buy them. We can save our lunch money, and at the end of the week, we go out and buy one plant, and hey, after 50 weeks, a couple years, your garden, your deck, your terrace can have all these exotic things that a couple hundred years ago you had to be, Baron von somebody to be able to have them.
Well, so I guess really plants from faraway places have been and can still be a status sign, huh?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's more than that. I'm sure it's because people love sitting outside. It makes you feel like you're on vacation, and to be surrounded by these beautiful, lush specimens from all over, right? Remind you of that trip to wherever you went. But
yeah, well, there's a variety of different things. Each plant kind of speaks to a person in a different way. There's color form, there is fragrance, there is the way it appears in sun. It's the way it can kind of help make you feel having it be around you, and it helps to create an environment. So everybody individually can relate to these wide varieties and species of plants that come from all over. We have the ability now to control our environments where we live, where we spend our time, in our kitchens and our dining rooms and our back terraces and our front yards. And there are plants from all over the planet that have some of those characteristics, either fragrance or color or form or shade and comfort, and we can bring them all. And we live in a place that's one of the best places on the planet to grow all these. It's just the range is just staggering what we are able to grow here in Southern California. We're so lucky and so incredibly fortunate.
It really is. It really is staggering. What's the biggest check that someone has written for you when you're shopping for plants? Here's $50,000. Will you buy us some trees or one of those things?
No, the biggest check is, here's some happiness. They give me a check for happiness because it's fulfilling on my own side.
Of course.
It's not a dollar thing or anything, but it's more like, they have facilitated with me fulfilling their expectations and their requirements, then it turns around because this is something that makes me happy. And I get fulfillment out of, putting a tiny little $1 petunia in the ground the same way I get fulfillment of getting a baobab tree from the savannah of Africa and planting it somewhere. And a little bit difference on the size and the cost and the amount of machinery and what size of a shovel you use, but the satisfaction is the same.
See, if someone were to say, here's an unlimited budget, go shop for plants, I would so be there. I love that.
That would be a good one.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at it. I mean, I just thought, what a fun thing. I mean, really, because all you're doing is bringing happiness to people's lives. You know? And so it doesn't really matter about the budget then. I mean, it helps to have a big, extravagant budget, but we can still feel like we're living the life of a king and a queen in our yard.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The thing is when these materials grow, and it's like a nurturing process. So you have something that you can buy something big if you can afford it, and then you can watch it grow into its 20-year, 30-year, 50-year cycle instantaneously, or you can plant it as a young seedling, a young tree, a young plant, and then nurture it through some early stages. So you get the same type of feedback. It's just, it can be catered to your own particular budget. If you want to start with something small, ultimately, and you have a little bit of time, you're going to be able to have the same thing that somebody would spend a whole bunch of, money on, and I think that you can get the same type of reward back from it.
Doesn't it seem that there is really a trend right now for people to get smarter with their garden? I mean, for many years, it seemed to me that gardening was almost something that, older people did. The people that you did like later on, or that, maybe your mom and did, and I don't know. But now it seems like kids and, whether it's edible gardening or whatever, young couples and families and people of all ages are really wanting to experience and understand having a great garden and doing, some things naturally and enjoying it. Are you finding that and seeing?
Definitely. I think it's a whole trend in our society. We see our wonderful planet, our home, Mother Earth, that we all get to share and live on together. And everybody is now aware globally of things that are happening around the world, and the interest and the knowledge globally of our own environment, how it relates to other environments across the world is coming. More and more people are becoming aware of that, and children are becoming aware of that. And that is creating an interest globally in part of our life. And plants are really important to us.
Yeah.
And they have been our sustenance. They have been our shelter. They've been the material that we live in. Our homes are constructed out of forests. So it's in our best interest. Everything with based on the home wizard, the place that we call home, it starts with plants, and we've been a part of plants, and plants have been a part of our lives forever. And I think now the young children are really looking at that. It's a big thing to all of them. They want to protect this fantastic environment that we're able to live in.
Well, when we come back, I want to hear a bit about the fantastic things that you're doing with this new project in China, right?
Oh,
and
that's kind of fun.
And it's really a beautiful, exotic thing, and just get some more great ideas on how we can bring the look and feel of all over the world to our little place right in the backyard, right? Or the front yard. Good. You're listening to Home Wizards. Maybe if you have a gardening question, you can call in at 888-KFWB 980, 888-539-2980. Talking with Paul Comstock. We're back in just a bit. I'm Cindy Dole. Don't you go away.